Hey, what is up? Welcome to this episode of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. As always, I'm your host, Brian Lofrumento, and I am so very excited for today's episode because all of you listeners, we get so many emails, and I know that the entrepreneurial world at large is obsessed with talking about AI right now. And we've had some AI guests on in the past, but today's guest has a really unique perspective in the world of AI. He's a thought leader in this space because he brings so many different experiences in his background to the plate. And I also would argue that he's one of the very few people within the world of AI that is attaching the words like empathetic and ethical and strategic and thoughtful and intentional to the work that he's helping other businesses do within the world of AI. So let me tell you all about today's guest. His name is Avi Hacker. Avi's story is one of resilience, determination, and a relentless pursuit of innovation. He is the founder and CEO of the AI Consulting Network, which is a company that helps businesses streamline operations and drive growth through the strategic implementation of artificial intelligence. With a background in accounting, law, and real estate, Avi recognized the immense potential of AI to transform industries. He made the bold move to transition his career, becoming an AI thought leader and consultant to guide companies in leveraging this powerful technology. Just to tell you a little bit about his diverse background, which I'm personally excited to get the first-hand story from him here today, but he graduated summa cum laude from Brooklyn College with a degree in accounting, business management, and finance. His journey began with a successful career inside the Big Four at PwC, where he worked as a risk assurance auditor. He also pursued his law degree, and when he was pursuing his law degree, he actually worked part-time at a real estate law firm. This role involved coordinating and assisting with real estate transactions, drafting and negotiating multi-party operating agreements, and conducting thorough due diligence assessments. So that analytical side of his brain drove so much of his transition into the world of AI because it was during law school that he realized the immense potential of artificial intelligence to revolutionize business processes. He takes a really hands-on approach with his clients, from that assessment part to the actual implementation to figuring out how the heck does AI actually move business and society forward. There's so much good stuff we're going to get into. I'm not going to say anything else. Let's dive straight into my interview with Avi Hacker. All right, Avi, I'm so excited that you're here for a lot of reasons. We're going to get into the good stuff here today, but first things first, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. And Brian, I just first want to say, I'm so sincerely gratitude for having me on your podcast today. And you've built an incredible platform, and the way you've grown this into a top 1.5% globally listened to podcast, I'm really humbled to be on this show right now.
Thank you so much, Avi. It means the world to me. And honestly, I'll take that praise, but I'm going to extrapolate it out to every single person's earbuds that we're in right now, because it really is this global community. I think we're all starving to learn from each other, to have these real conversations. So it's thanks to our audience. It's thanks to amazing guests like you. So shout out to all of us who are here today, because it really is incredible what entrepreneurs do when we acknowledge that a rising tide lifts all boats. And I know that factors into your attitude towards AI as well. So take us beyond the bio. Who's Avi? How'd you start doing all this cool stuff with AI?
Yeah. So I'd like to take you and your listeners on a short journey that really captures the essence of my path. So it's May 2021, and I'm sitting in my Brooklyn apartment surrounded by law textbooks. My first year of law school is ending, and my final exams are just 2 weeks away. But that's not all that's on my mind. Life has definitely thrown me a curveball. I'm in the middle of a divorce, adding another layer of complexity to an already challenging time. I'm juggling being a new father to an 8-month-old baby and a full-time law student. The pressure is stacking up from multiple directions at once, and I feel completely overwhelmed. But at that moment, I make a decision. I decided that I'm not going to let these challenges define me or hold me back. Instead, I chose to channel this pressure into an unwavering drive to succeed. I pushed through, took my finals, and did well. This experience ignited a fire within me, a determination to not just survive, but to thrive in the face of adversity. As I continue progressing through law school, I refused to let life's obstacles deter me from pursuing my passions. It was during this time that I started exploring the world of AI It fascinates me, and I see how much it could be applied to many aspects of life and business. And fast forward to today, that fascination has transformed into a burning passion and my own business. Throughout this journey, I've realized there's more to life than following a traditional path. My experiences have taught me that the value of resilience, innovation, and the power of pursuing what truly excites you. Now I'm here to help others harness AI's transformative power to create efficiencies in their business and lives. Whether you're running your business super efficiently, feeling completely overwhelmed, or anywhere in between, AI can revolutionize how you work and live. My journey has shown me that we can overcome any challenge with passion, perseverance, and the right tools and create extraordinary results. And that's the message I'm excited to dive in today with you.
Yeah, I really appreciate that overview, Avi, because I think that it's so revealing in that answer about your attitude as a whole towards AI, which when you talk about it, all these things they sound so positive from you, which Avi, it's actually funny. Right before you and I got on the air here together today, I got a text from a fellow entrepreneur who said to me, gosh, have you seen this new AI language model? I'm worried it's going to replace us by 2030. And Avi, everyone wants to talk about this replacement. Everyone wants to talk about how much it's changing. You have a very hopeful view of AI. Talk to us about the AI landscape from your perspective, having worked across different industries, but of course also helping businesses. You just shared it with us there, helping businesses incorporate this to make their businesses better. What's your perspective on the greater AI landscape?
Yeah, I think there needs to be a certain mindset shift that people need to approach AI with, not that it's going to replace their jobs. It's just that they need to upskill in their own skills to keep up with the pace, and it's going to augment their skills. It's going to augment their skills, and that it's a new changing landscape. Like when the computer came out, people were scared that it was going to replace their jobs, but it's just creating different opportunities for them to really try out new opportunities to really get their productivity and efficiency better.
Yeah, I think that right there, I don't know how you chose that one word in particular. I feel like I'm going to steal it from you, Avi, which is augment. I think that's such an important way to look at it. And that's why when I look at what you do within the AI Consulting Network, it's really clear to me from the outside looking in that your attitude is exactly that, augmentation, but I'm going to layer on also you can't augment something until you've assessed the landscape. And knowing that you went through law school and knowing that you've worked within the world of accounting and risk assurance, there's so many things that you do have that analytical mind that I teased at the top of today's episode. Talk to us about how you're able to bring that into the landscape of AI to actually assess, hey, here's how your business is operating and here's where the opportunities are for us to augment what it is that you're doing.
Yeah, so I think there needs to be an approach where you start off with mapping a company's process and seeing where the inefficiencies lie, because you don't need to apply AI to every single part of your process. It's more you need to have a use case and a need to apply AI to that process. So you really need to think about how to incorporate it into your organization in a smart and analytical way. Also, if you do incorporate AI into your organization, but the people don't know how to use it, that's not going to be good either. So there needs to be a real balanced approach before you start thinking about applying AI into your company. Also, there's the side of regulations. Is the party's data going to be secure? So that's where I get that useful knowledge from working at PwC on the control side, because I did IT general controls, I did automation, and I see what kind of controls are involved to keep a person's information secure and safe. And then I'm applying my analytical mindset from law school on how to approach problems. And I was working for a solo practitioner while in law school and doing real estate corporate law, and I got really in depth of really a broad experience of how to approach different problems. And while I was doing all of this, I was really exploring all the different AI models, all the different use cases. I was so fascinated by this technology that I was like, this is really revolutionary. And so I really just dove in and tried to apply it to every single part of my life. And it was really game changing to see how much it could really affect what I was doing.
Yeah, I really appreciate you bringing that up because clearly, I mean, you live in this world. You've explored so many different AI tools where I feel like a little bit in the mainstream conversation right now, ChatGPT has a lot of the attention. Everyone knows about ChatGPT. It's funny, whether it's people young or really old, it's really cool to see how that has penetrated so much of the market and really introduced a lot of people into AI, even though, of course, AI has been in our society for a long time. When we think about the AI algorithms and data models that like Target and Best Buy and Amazon especially, you may like. Obviously, that's AI powered using data that they have, but ChatGPT has certainly brought it into the mainstream. Avi, you talk about use cases. I feel like because people are still figuring out, what does this stuff do for my life? What does this do for my business? Give us some of those practical use cases that you've seen either personally or with the companies that you work with.
Yeah. So referring to what you said before about ChatGPT is the main one, and most people do know about ChatGPT, but the thing that I'm finding when I speak to people is they don't know about the other models that are out there, because ChatGPT may be good for complex reasoning, but I use a model called Claude for natural language processing, or for more for writing tasks, or I use Perplexity for research. So there are different models that excel at different use cases. And the more you delve into the AI world, the more you'll realize is the nuances between the platforms. And you really need to take that leap and try it out first to really get the experience to actually know how to converse with it properly.
Yeah, which leads us to, again, I'm going to keep piggybacking off of that word augment. I think that in and of itself is an example as to how we can improve our skills, diversify our skill set. I think that's one thing. I think rather than AI replacing all of these skills that we have, we're just going to change skills. I mean, right now you're alluding towards prompt engineering. That's going to be an entire area. When I see the way that some people use ChatGPT, for example, it is so far advanced compared to the way that just a layperson will use it. A layperson will ask it a question, trust its answer, whether it's hallucinating or not. Whereas an expert like yourself, because you understand the intricacies of how it works, you can, again, outputs are only ever going to be as good as inputs. You can input the good stuff to get the outputs that are valuable. Talk to us about that input-output model and the important considerations there.
Got it. So it's funny because I could relate, like I could attest to where I am today solely because of AI. Like I wouldn't be able to be running my entire operation and building my entire business if AI wasn't there to support me along the way. Right now, I kind of have like 10 different AI bots, and I write out very detailed instructions on this is my company, this is what I'm trying to do. Like, help me build a go-to-market strategy, help me build a marketing campaign, help me build an email sequence, help me reach out to clients. What is the best way to do this? What is the best way to formulate this sentence? So when I have these, I personally do never use the main platform on you going into the chat and you just ask it a prompt. I always use a custom GBT, and then projects was just released on Claude. It's where you could create your own custom knowledge and instructions. So I have in there my entire website in the knowledge base, my entire everything I want to do about my company, and then I have basically like a list of instructions saying you are an expert in the AI consulting network. You are a personal assistant to Avi Hacker. So now whenever I go into that knowledge base, it knows exactly what I'm talking about. So I don't have to worry about saying every single time I'm prompting it to be like, you are now an expert marketer, help me create a campaign. I'm just like, help me create a campaign. And it just has everything ready for me. And it just quickens up everything you're doing significantly. And when you start applying this to every single task you're doing, it really speeds up the entire process. I made a couple of videos on how you can do this for a title report. For in real estate, you get these 80-page documents and you need to review them, or loan documents. I created instructions that pull out every single specific detail or term, and it would just give you that output within 30 seconds. And I always tell people, never trust what it gives you, because that's where people go wrong. But it creates such a good first draft within 30 seconds that you don't realize how much time you're saving. And when all of these little pockets start adding up, you'll realize you're so much ahead of the game while using AI.
Yeah, really well said. Avi, I'm frantically writing notes here while you're answering these questions. I've actually never heard that Claude projects feature. That seems incredible because you hit the nail on the head. I feel like when I do use AI, so many times I'm re-explaining, I'm Brian, I'm the host of the Entrepreneur to Entrepreneur podcast. Are you familiar with the show? And then it says, yes, I am. And then I say, okay, I'm looking for Solo Sunday ideas or Action Saturday ideas. But yeah, hearing about how we can literally set it up. And actually, to me, it sounds, Avi, like you've got a secret employee or 100 because it's doing so much of this work for you with context. And I think that's the important thing that your work does is it adds a lot of context to AI, specifically within the world of businesses, because businesses can sign up for Perplexity or Claude or ChatGPT, but what are they going to do with it? That's the important thing.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things that brings AI the bad rep that it has, that it's not helpful. In my mind, it's just that people are not giving it enough time to really see if it could really help them. It's either they're not prompting it correctly or not giving it enough context, like an opportunity. Like, you have to think of AI as a new employee coming into your workspace. Are you going to just throw a task at them and be like, okay, do this? And then when it comes back with a bad job, you kind of are like, oh, I thought ChatGPT was going to be perfect. Oh, clearly it's not good, so I'm never going to use it again. But you really have to work with the model. You have to follow up with it. I turn on my voice command. Like, I start explaining to it in great detail on how I want things to look. And the more specific and detailed you are with giving the AI model your instructions, it really exceeds your expectations on the output.
Yeah, I love that. You know what? That analogy of you wouldn't just onboard a new employee and say, hey, go do this assignment. You have to give that context. That's the way that I'm certainly, after today's session, I'm going to view AI. And I think that's super helpful for all of us. I want to transition a little bit, Avi, because it just seems to me like as much as you love AI, which you for sure love AI, it also seems like you love the human implications of it. And I know that there's this growing world of ethical AI, and it's something that when I went through your website, the AI consultingnetwork.com, it's just something that popped up is you talk about bringing empathy to the way you roll out AI. It just seems like you're so strategic and intentional and thoughtful with regards to how AI can help businesses. Talk to us about that approach and that growing consideration in the world of ethical AI.
Yeah, I think just it's evolved on my life trajectory. As I stated earlier, I've been through a lot more, I feel like, than most people in their lifetime as they were by 28. So I made that jump to start my own company, and I wanted to approach things differently. And throughout my journey, I realized that people need this, like, you always see the bad that's coming in the world when there's not ethical implications, or you read on the news that someone's using AI for the legal report and submitted it, and people are like, oh, now we can't use it anymore. But I just want to stress that if it's used wisely and you use it with ethical implications, and you're transparent about how you use it, and you do it in the correct manner, then this technology can really transform the landscape. Because there are a lot of concerns right now about it being used to scam people, to do bad. But I think we just need to counteract that with trying to really think about how it's approached and do it in the correct way, so it really never comes to that point where we have to make that decision. Do we have to shut this down, or whatever the scenario may be?
Yeah, Avi, it's really fun. I didn't anticipate going here in today's episode together, but while we have you here, I figure we have to tap into your brilliance and your background here, because you raise some really important considerations. And I'll tell you transparently, within the podcasting world, us podcasters, we do slightly worry about a lot of the technology we're seeing come out of there, because there's hours and hours of our voices out there for public usage. And it's never been easier than it is today to clone our voices using AI. You can find 200 hours hours of me talking on the internet. And it's really powerful because, to your point about scams, is people can do nefarious things with our voices and our likenesses. So I'm going to ask you this question, not only as the subject matter expert that you are, but also with your legal background hat on. What should we be paying attention to within the AI space? Are you a proponent for legislative bodies stepping in here and sort of building in some of these safeguards? What's your perspective on that?
I think there definitely needs to be more safeguards around how we use the technology and making sure that before it's released to the public, there are appropriate measures in place to make sure it can't be used in certain aspects. Like, I know if you start asking it to prompt certain things that it's not being allowed to prompt, it will try to push back, but then people have solved on how to get past that. So I think there does need to be rigorous testing before it gets released to the public to really ensure that these problems don't happen in the first place, so we don't have to double back to be like, okay, how can we mitigate those issues that it's solved, instead of how do we stop them from starting in the first place.
Yeah, Avi, I think it's really powerful that you're sharing that with us here, because obviously these are the questions that are being asked on a really macro level. And to hear someone from within the world of AI like you, and someone who's using their voice to spread the powers, the good powers of AI, I think it's really telling that you're also part of the solution that's saying, hey, let's also build in these safeguards using that forevision that you have. I think that's so important. And Avi, I do want to transition a little bit, because I am such a fan of the way that you lay out your framework for how you help clients with the AI consulting network. I'm going to break it in because it's so prevalent in your messaging and your marketing of analyzing, implementing, and providing support. So let's start with analyzing, because I know a lot of listeners are going to want to jump straight to step 2. Let me start implementing AI in my business. But how do you go about analyzing the landscape of a business to identify? Because you've already said, don't apply AI to everything. That's not the right solution. So how do we intelligently analyze our business landscape?
Yeah, thank you so much for that question. I get that a lot. And I would say break it down as start, like, I don't know, take a piece of paper. And like, this is what I do with clients, and really map out your entire business from A to Z, from when you outbound to a client or when you inbound, a client comes in, and then when you service them, when you set up their customer service, when you send an invoice, when you interact with them, like really create an entire workflow of every single data point. Where does the data flow in the company? Who is in charge of what? And then as you put together this roadmap of your entire operations, you could see which tasks could be leveraged through AI. Could you create an AI chatbot that goes on your website and is available 24/7 that will answer simple questions to anyone 24/7? So now you don't have to have that rep or a person available that many hours a day? Or are you going through a lot of documents that you would give to a lower ranking person in your company to just create summaries for? Now you can have AI do those summaries, and you could have that person focus on more strategic tasks. That's where I don't like to see that as it's going to be replacing jobs. I think it's going to help people focus on more strategy. Like, I love strategy. I love looking at a company and being like, where could we help this company with AI, and how can we find innovative solutions? But then with any company, there always comes the work, the grunt work, as people say, that they don't like doing. But what AI is coming to do now is it's really alleviating that pain point and really creating more free time to do more of the strategic and analytical thinking that people love about what they do in their companies.
Yeah, and to your point, I'll give a real life example from our very show. This podcast is that we used to be a 3-day-a-week show, because a lot goes into creating these productions. You have to come up with the titles, the show notes, create all these graphics. And we've got an incredible team that supports the actual production of this show. But with all the tools that we use, I mean, Cast Magic, I'm going to give a shout out to them. I'm not affiliated with them. I'm a customer of theirs. But every time we upload an episode to Cast Magic, it does the show notes for us. It writes a LinkedIn post for us. It writes an email email newsletter for us. It does so much of that legwork to the point where now we're a 5-day-a-week show for the past few years, and it's because we have that increase in productivity. So Avi, you're getting to the good stuff now, talking about chatbots and custom solutions on all of these things. Let's move right on down that process and talk about the implementation for listeners who are saying, okay, Avi, I'm convinced. I want to start implementing this stuff. What does that look like? What's the correct way to start implementing AI into our workflows?
Yeah, so first I would see it depends who you are listening as a viewer. If you do work for a company, I would say you would first have to check with your company to see what AI models they do or don't allow, because there are certain restrictions. If you're working within the Microsoft Azure system, then you might only be able to use Copilot, or they might have their own proprietary large language model. So I would definitely check with your company first. But if you're a business owner or entrepreneur and you have your own company, you could really leverage a lot of these tools. I would say to check out ChatGPT and really start exploring with what you could do. I tell people to always have an AI first mindset instead of an AI second mindset. It's when you are approaching your workday now, you have to start thinking that, okay, I have this task. Could I do it with AI first? And then see where it goes. You'll be amazed on the capabilities of what it could do. You could take an Excel spreadsheet. You could put it in there and ask it to underwrite a deal. You could, for example, I built out a workflow that I posted reading through the loan documents, and I uploaded the PDF document to a Google Drive. And then within under a minute, it pulled out all the important points for a loan document. It created an analysis of was there any discrepancies that should be reviewed, and then it created a draft email to the client. And then from there, it created 3 tasks in my to-do list to review those documents with it linking to the documents. So the more you interact with it, the more you could realize its potential.
Yeah, that's
I
incredible.
hope that answers your question. Or do you want like more concrete use cases?
No, not only did it answer my question, but Avi, I know personally for myself, and I'm sure with many listeners, hearing that real life example of uploading contract data, I'm just like, there's so much that I could do, because we always think about asking questions, but we rarely, at this point, obviously this is why experts like you are ahead of us, we rarely think about uploading documents and having it actually do things for us and summarize all of that. It's powerful stuff, because I'm thinking about all the data that we are sitting on as a podcast. I mean, we've got all these guest questionnaires from hundreds and hundreds of amazing minds and entrepreneurs and guests, where I'm thinking we've never created a compilation of, different insights and zones of genius that we've picked up from guests, but there's so much that we could do that we're only scratching the tip of the iceberg. So huge kudos to you, Avi. This episode, I know it's going to give a lot of people food for thought, but I do also want to touch on, I think it's so brilliant the way that you've structured your business, that step 3 is that support, which is, to me, any business that outlines that up front, they have a very practical and honest assessment of the fact that, hey, things continue to evolve, things sometimes break, things continue to change and adapt. So talk to us about the support side of things, because I know that's an important consideration that you can bring to your clients. How important is that? What are some of the types of things that, from an advisory support perspective, you help people with?
Yeah. So the main thing is that the technology is evolving so fast that there's a new AI model changing, like coming out every single week at this point. And to really keep up with that technology, like you need your own department or person to really keep you updated on the way that it's changing and how it can maybe affect your company or industry. Because what I'm seeing is that people who are really more hesitant now, they're really going to be left behind in some way or not have that competitive edge, because the way that you could interact with this technology is so great that you need to have a person that not only knows how to interact with it, but knows where like its potential could be. So you want someone to be in your company knowing what you're doing, and then knowing the existing technology that is currently out there and still evolving, so you could stay at the latest trending tech to stay up to date in the industry. Because there are a lot of companies using AI right now, and there are a lot of companies not, but you want to be on that leading edge of the curve to stay ahead.
Yeah, gosh, Avi, I'll tell you what, as we come towards the end of this episode, I don't even want to call this the end because I do think it's the beginning. And I know that you're giving me a lot of food for thought. And I know that listeners will feel the exact same way. So fortunately, listeners, total teaser alert and spoiler alert here is that we will be inviting Avi back for an Action Saturday because I feel like there's so much stuff that we can continue to learn from him. And he is a leading voice here. We're going to drop his LinkedIn link in just a second and talk about the other links where you can find his business on the internet. But Avi, before we get there, I also love talking to our guests, entrepreneur to entrepreneur. And with that in mind, with your entrepreneurial hat on, I'll make it a two-part question because I always ask guests at the end of these episodes, what's your number one takeaway? What's the piece of advice that you want to leave listeners with? But I'm actually going to ask you for two here because one, I want one piece of advice with your entrepreneurial hat on. And then secondly, I want you to give us a piece of advice from the AI perspective because you are one of us. Not only are you working in AI, but you're a fellow business owner who's using AI for your own business as well, while also managing all the other stuff, the sales, the marketing, the accounting, everything that goes into it. So drop us with those two actionable takeaways, one with your entrepreneurial hat on and one from an AI perspective.
From my entrepreneurial hat, I would say that don't be afraid to take that jump or leap because I was definitely scared to do it, but I have been faced with nothing but support and from so many people, and I'm growing my brand on LinkedIn. And I was a person that was always so scared to give public speeches, so scared to post. I never did any of it. But now I realize in today's day and age where social media is so important that I realize that if I really do want to be an entrepreneur, that's the leap I'm going to have to take. And once you do it, it's kind of like you realize that it's a false belief that people are going to judge you or people are going to be harsh on you. And it's a lot less scary than it seems. So just if you have a dream, if you have a passion, go for it. And you'll really be surprised by how far you can really come. And for that second piece regarding AI, I would say is have an open mind. Like really try to interact with ChatGPT, Claude, Perplexity, and see what it could do, see its capabilities. Don't write it out right away if it doesn't give you an answer that you're not happy with. Try to reiterate the question. Try to ask a follow-up, give it more context. Really play around with it. Give it the time it deserves to be needed because I'm so certain that in the future at some point that if you don't know how to use AI, I don't believe that like it's going to be like, do you know how to use a computer? I feel like jobs are going to start requiring you to have this necessary skill in the future. So you might as well just start now.
Yeah, two incredible pieces of advice. And Avi, it's crazy for me to hear the fact that you were waiting, you were hesitant, you were nervous to get started on using your voice because now, I mean, we came across you on LinkedIn and we're so grateful to have you here on the show because you are one of those voices that's showing up and creating a lot of amazing content on LinkedIn and beyond. Your website, by the way, I've spent a lot of time on your website because you also go in depth. I mean, you've got embedded documents sharing with people, hey, here's the appropriate way to have an AI business assessment for your first step into the AI revolution. You just have such incredible content as well as things to say. So I'm so appreciative that you're using your voice to be such an usher of change as part of this revolution. So with all of that said, drop those links on listeners. Where should they go from here to follow all the incredible stuff that you're doing in the world of AI to help so many other people?
Yeah, thank you so much. So right now, my main platform that I'm building on is LinkedIn, and I post there every single day. I'm sharing my journey, and please follow me there at Avi Hacker, and I'm also starting my YouTube channel, so at the AI Consulting Network, to really go more in depth how-to videos because I see in this landscape it's more of people just putting out a lot of here's a prompt, here's this, here's that, but people aren't really connecting the two on how could I actually use this technology to make it helpful. So I'm trying to really break down that barrier on how could I use AI to really be helpful for me in the job and in the job landscape. So I'm putting out those tutorials on how maybe you could think about and approach things differently. And I've created an ebook that breaks down exactly how you think through different situations and how to prompt AI effectively to get the best output. Now, this is not just another AI ebook because I wrote it obviously with the help of AI, because that's my whole company. So, but I really tailored it with that specific lens in mind. And I normally sell this for $100, but because I just love this podcast so much, and anyone listening to today, if you connect with me on LinkedIn and you send me a DM note that says entrepreneur to entrepreneur, I'll gladly give you that ebook for absolutely free, just to share and help everyone on this journey.
Avi, I so greatly appreciate that. Not only your generous offer for every single one of our listeners to get that free ebook, I think that's such an incredible offer, but also for you coming on this show, but even more than just that, being such a leading and bright voice in what you're doing on LinkedIn, which listeners, you'll find that link down below in the show notes, wherever it is that you're tuning in. And I always encourage you guys to reach out to our incredible guests, but Avi just gave you another reason to actually reach out and connect and broaden your network and have incredible entrepreneurs there, while also tapping into his brilliant mind and everything that's in that free ebook. So Avi, thank you so much, not only for that generous offer, but thanks for coming on the show today. It's been such a blast to have you on here.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure.